Hi, I'm Angie Wright-Reeves, and welcome to Law and Society. This is the program on AIB where we talk about the legal and political issues that you want to hear about and introduce you to the movers and shakers in law and politics in Atlanta. Today on the program, we're talking with Scott Henwood, who is chair of the Appellate Practice Group at Hall, Booth, Smith, and Slover. It's a real pleasure to welcome you, Scott. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Angie. It's
Now,
great to be with
you're
you.
here to talk about a very exciting adventure this summer in Tbilisi, Georgia.
Yes, yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that and who exactly is involved and what's going on?
Okay, I'd be delighted to tell you. Several years ago, Angie, in 2007, my partner John Hall, who chairs our firm, got involved as chairman of the Atlanta Tbilisi Sister City Committee here in Atlanta under the auspices of the mayor's office, and started spending a considerable amount of time developing relationships with political and legal relationships in the country of Georgia. The capital of that country is Tbilisi. And as you know, Georgia has been in the news as recently as last summer because of some difficulties with the Russians who made an invasion into that country.
Right.
So those politics aside, one of the things that the country has attempted to do under the leadership of President Saakashvili is to implement trial by jury under the rule of law, as we like to call it in America. Heretofore, trials had been by tribunal or by jurisdictional courts.
Well, for lay people, can you explain the distinction between what they were doing when you say a trial by a tribunal as opposed to what we do here? Can you explain to people what you mean?
Trial by tribunal would be a composition of judges on a panel of a court that would listen to the evidence presented by the attorneys in the case and then make a decision based on their belief of the evidence and what the evidence would lead to some sort of conclusion. Now, we in America certainly can have that, and we can have a trial where the parties would agree to have a judge or a panel of judges hear it. But in America, one of the great underpinnings, as you know, of our judicial system is the right to trial by jury, by a group of your peers to listen to the evidence.
And it's so interesting when you're talking about this, because for a lot of people, I think that they just take it for granted. They think as goes America, so goes the rest of the world. And so I think a lot of people are not aware that in other countries there aren't the trial by juries that we take for granted here.
Well, that's exactly right, Angie. America, of course, as you know, is a beacon on the hill of freedom and the right of its citizens to be tried in an open court by a panel of what we call jurors of their peers to listen to the evidence and determine, are the charges justified? Now, we're talking here, Angie, about criminal trials. This is also, it would involve civil juries also to hear cases. I'm sure your audience is well aware of the distinction between criminal and civil trials. So this concept of trial by jury is now being introduced into the country of Georgia. And my understanding is that legislation was approved by its legislative body last year and would start being implemented in January 2009. Now,
they're in Tbilisi or what?
In the country of Georgia.
In the country of Georgia.
Yes,
so
sir. Yes, ma'am.
They are going to start utilizing jury trials, is that what you said?
That's correct.
Starting this past January?
This year.
Oh, okay.
So in the process of having visiting delegations of lawyers and judges coming to Atlanta and to the United States indeed, we were one of the host firms. And this was primarily done by the Open Worlds program, which is a magnificent program out of Washington, D.C. that fosters international friendships and development of opportunities for countries all over the world to become acquainted with one another and help one another. So through that process, we got to know a lot of the lawyers, the bar officials in the country of Georgia, and their judges. And we were asked to consider the idea of bringing some prominent judges and lawyers over from the country of Georgia to Atlanta and to teach them the aspects of trial by jury. We were very, very blessed to have the opportunity to partner in this endeavor with the Emory University School of Law. Their dean out there, Dean David Partlet, was most favorable, looked favorably to that idea. And last year I got to be close to one of their professors out there, Professor Paul Zwier, who has a magnificent program in trial advocacy. He chairs that department and has done this all over the world, these same kinds of programs. So we chaired with him in developing this concept of trial by jury and teaching that.
So last summer, a delegation from Georgia came over and spent time here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we spent a week teaching them trial by jury with a faculty group put together at Emory Law School.
Now you make it sound so simple, you know, to change your entire, the way you've done things, your entire trial system in your country, but it is a very complicated matter, isn't it? I mean, because we operate under the Constitution, of course, but then civil practice procedure, all these procedures, criminal law procedures, there are all these rules here in the country for how things are to go in a trial. So did you have to write an entire set of criminal procedure and civil procedure practices and rules?
Absolutely. And had it not been for Professor Zwier, Paul Zwier, who and his staff who put this together, it never could have been accomplished. It was such a massive task. Not only that, Angie, but the requirement for us to be bilingual, for this material to be presented by an interpreter, because some of these lawyers and judges that came over from Georgia were not bilingual. So we had to deal with that. In the process, one of the things that we had to teach, and we had in the composition of this delegation, Angie, we had prosecutors and defense lawyers, both in criminal and civil side of the bar, but primarily in dealing in criminal cases. We had to explain to them, and it took, I recall distinctly, it took half a day to explain to them burden of proof. Wow. Who has the burden of proof? And as you know, that's one of the cornerstones of our constitutional law process here in America. So this is something that is new in its concept, and we're delighted to be a part of this at our law firm. Now, I mentioned,
and perhaps it's good for them now, because I don't remember how old they are as an independent country, but not that old. I mean, when they broke apart from the USSR, when all of that happened, and several years ago, but it hasn't been a long period of time that they've been an independent country. Is that right?
That's exactly correct. My recollection is through the Rose Revolution about 2002, they became an independent country and started having elections, and of course.
So do they operate under democracy or
yes,
what? Okay.
and their own constitution, and so now we as an American bar are having an opportunity to bring this concept of trial by jury to fruition in an evolving democracy in the Balkans region, and this is a terribly exciting thing to be a part of. Now, to take this to the next level, Angie, of where we're going now, we had some of that interchange with their lawyers and judges on trial by jury, and then it was realized that one of the things we could help do was to teach their appellate judges, their Supreme Court and their Supreme and appellate tribunals about review of cases under trial by jury.